Welcome to the CSS Box Model tutorial. In this video, we'll break down everything you need to know about how the box model works and how to use it to create clean and polished designs. By the end of this lesson, you'll even build a form project using the concepts we covered today. Every element in HTML is represented as a rectangular box in CSS. The box model defines the structure of this box, which is made up of four areas. Content box. This is where your content, like text or images, lives. Padding. Space between the content and the border. Border. The line that wraps around the padding and content. Margin. Space outside the border, separating elements from one another. Throughout this tutorial, we'll explore each part of the box model, see how it works in action, and use these techniques to build a form at the end. Let's dive in, starting with the content box. The content box is the core of the box model. It's where the actual content of your element, like text or an image, is displayed. By default, the width and height properties in CSS only apply to the content box. Let's create a simple box with some content and style it. As you can see, the content box is the starting point of every element, but it doesn't look very interesting yet. That's where padding, borders, and margins come in. Padding. Padding creates space between the content box and the border, pushing the content inward. To add padding, use the padding property and specify values in units like pixels. Here's how it works. One value applies padding equally on all sides. Two values apply padding vertically, top and bottom, and horizontally, left and right. Three values specify padding for the top, horizontal sides, and bottom. Four values specify padding in this order: top, right, bottom, and left. Let's create a button with padding. To create this button, we first add the button element to the HTML with a class of padded button. We then target the class and give it a padding of 10 pixels top and bottom and 20 pixels left and right. We'll give the button a background color of dark blue, text color of white, border of none, and cursor pointer. Border. Borders wrap around the padding and content, giving structure to your elements. To create a border, define its width, style, and color. You can style each side of the border separately or round the corners with border radius. Here's an example of both. Be careful with thick borders as they can overpower your design. For instance, let's now create another button with a border. We will give the button a class of bordered button. In the CSS, we will target the button and give it a padding of 10 pixels vertical and 20 pixels horizontal. Border of 2 pixels solid dark blue. Border radius of 5 pixels. Background color of white. Font color of dark blue and cursor pointer. Margin. Margin creates space outside an element, pushing it away from other elements or boundaries. Here's how margin works. Margins can collapse or use auto to center elements. For example, this centers the element horizontally. Using very large margins can create awkward layouts. For example, let's create a title. To do this, we will first wrap the h1 in a div with the class of form title. From there, we will target the form title and give it a margin of 40 pixels auto and text align center. Now let's bring everything together to create a simple form using what we've learned. The first thing we need to do is add the form element. From there, inside the form element, we will add two input elements. The first input will have a type of text and a placeholder of email address or phone number. The second input will have a type of password and a placeholder of password. After the inputs, we will add a button with a class of form button. Inside the button will be the text login. Next will be a div with the class of link, and inside an A tag saying forgotten password. Next, we will create the line border. A div with the class of line will be used for this. The last element in the form will be a button with the class of create. The button will have the text create new account. Now that the HTML is finished, let's move on to the CSS. The first thing we're going to do in the CSS is use the universal selector and give it a box sizing border box. By setting box sizing border box, the width and height of an element include the padding and border, making it easier to manage spacing and ensuring that elements don't unexpectedly overflow their containers. After that, target the body and give it a background color of a light gray so that the form can stand out. Give the form a background of white, a width of 400 pixels, a margin of 40 pixels top and bottom, and auto to center the form. We'll text the line center, padding 14 pixels top and bottom, and 20 pixels left and right. Border radius of 5 pixels for rounded edges, and a box shadow as shown on the screen. Next, let's move on to the inputs. We'll give it a width of 100%, padding of 14 pixels top and bottom, and 16 pixels left and right. A margin bottom of 10 pixels to have a space at the bottom of each input. A font size of 16 pixels, a border radius of 5 pixels, and a border of 1 pixel solid light grey. After that, target the input placeholder and give it a light grey font color. Lastly, target the second input using the nth child and give it a margin bottom of 15 pixels. To create this login button, give it a width of 100%, a padding of 12 pixels top and bottom, font weight bold, font size 20 pixels, font color white, a background color of this blue, border of none, border radius 5 pixels, space below the button with margin bottom 15 pixels, and cursor pointer. There is a link after the button, and we will give it a font family of Systems UI, text decoration none to remove the underline, font size 14 pixels, font weight 500. The color is the same color as the background of the button. The div with the class of link will be given a margin bottom of 15 pixels. To add a border to the empty div, we will give it a width of 100%, a margin of 0 top, auto to center horizontally, and 20 pixels bottom, and add a border of 0.5 pixels solid light gray. The last element being styled is the button with the class of create. It will have a width of 200 pixels, a green background color, a font of white, padding 16 pixels top and bottom, and 2 pixels left and right, no border, 5 pixels border radius, a font size of 18 pixels, font weight bold, margin bottom of 5 pixels, and cursor pointer. And this is our form. That's the CSS box model in action. You've learned how the content box, padding, borders, and margins work, and we use them all to create this form. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy coding!